This episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast is brought to you by the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. Hello and welcome to the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we are strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is Beauty by ABIC. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guest is Nicholas Goritas from Air Purification and Disinfection Systems. Nicholas is a serial entrepreneur who is passionate and focused on improving communication, connectivity, and engagement between businesses and consumers, delivering great experiences resulting in increased brand awareness, revenue, and consumer satisfaction. In 2019, Nick underwent a triple bypass, and as a result, he investigated ways that he could further protect himself, his family, and friends during the pandemic and beyond. Through many months of research, Nicholas discovered that a significant percentage of illnesses are related to aggravated indoor air pollution. Health and well-being are largely influenced by the quality of the air we breathe, and as a result, the Air Purification and Disinfection Systems Company was established, its objective being to protect the vulnerable from all suspended contaminant particles in the air, including VOCs, bacteria, and viruses like COVID-19. Here to discuss the ways we can create a safe workspace for the well-being of employees and their consumers. From Air PDS, today we welcome Nicholas Goritas. Welcome to the podcast, Nick. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's so wonderful to have you today, and it's going to be a really interesting conversation and very timely, especially for the world that we live in today, and especially our industry, because our industry is actually based around creating a sense of well-being and confidence in our patients' lives. Our profession does this through enhancing aesthetics, but we also talk to our clients about well-being and health, as those particular factors actually can have a significant impact on a person's appearance and the quality of their skin. So we always talk to our clients about their general health. And one of the areas that we often discuss is diet and lifestyle and environmental factors. And those environmental factors that can actually have an effect on their health and their skin. And Nicholas, I understand that the environment is one of the most impactful of those influences, and your mission is to purify the environment around us so that we are breathing cleaner air and taking in less toxins. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What drove you to this area of health and environment purification?
Well, back in 2019, Stephanie, unbeknownst to myself and with no symptoms or, I should say minor symptoms, just minor swelling of the ankles, I ended up having a triple bypass. And my doctor said to me, he said, the first sign of a cardiac arrest, Nick, is 70% of the time is death. And that really shocked me. I said, well, wow, I'm on the 30% side and I'm blessed and happy to be alive. And the only symptoms that I had was, as I said, swollen ankles. My blood pressure was textbook. I have no diabetes. I have no cholesterol. Everything was running fine. Yes, I'm a little bit cuddly, but no, who isn't? So then, as we all know, COVID hit. And we lost 2 years of our lives, unfortunately. But during that time, I investigated ways of trying to understand why I had such ailments. Because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I feel that I do a lot of healthy stuff and what have you. But yes, as a owner of a business and an entrepreneur, you tend to work 24/7. It's not 9 to 5 as such. And I started to investigate things, and I found things out like the Australian Bureau of Statistics said more than 50% of the ailments that we incur is due to the contaminants or pollutants in the indoor space. And I thought, oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
I was absolutely amazed. And then I read somewhere where they said, you don't drink dirty water, so why are you breathing dirty air?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And the obvious conclusion that came to me was, well, we don't know we're breathing dirty air. There's no sign or balloon that goes up that says, oh, don't do that. You notice it, when you're driving on the highway and you wind your window down, you think, oh my goodness, that stinks. But you just don't notice it in general. So upon further investigation, I was absolutely amazed at the amount of pollutants that are in the air. I was gobsmacked, from dust to pollen to bacteria and viruses, pet dander, you name it. So
Is pet dander dangerous to breathe in?
Yes, it is. I mean, actual hair cannot be digested. And I'm like, wow, watch what you eat. it can't be digested. So, we've got a lovely pup downstairs. I shouldn't say pup, she's 10 years old now, but she drops her fur everywhere. And we're forever, vacuuming it up.
So over me 24 hours a day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So gathering all this information, and the cardiologist couldn't confirm that if I did have my vaccination that I wouldn't get inflammation of the heart and move on anyway. Really motivated me to see what I could find. And I was very fortunate to come across an air purifying system that is of German engineering and ingenuity.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history, yeah.
Well, okay, well, tell us, I really want to know, you touched on a couple of things. So tell us specifically why exposure to inhaling these volatile, I suppose, organic and maybe also inorganic chemicals is hazardous to our health. Like, give us some specifics around that.
The average individual inhales air 25,000 times in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
Right. So our system is meant to filter things. It takes in oxygen and it gives out carbon dioxide. Now, when you're inhaling things other than oxygen, you're having a competition within the system. So a pure athlete that constantly trains and maintains an incredible physique and what have you, and training regime has increased oxygenation, which runs throughout his body, and he's a perfect specimen as such. When we're starting to breathe things other than oxygen, there's a fight in the system. It's just common sense. And at some point in time, over a period of time, and also depending on the concentration of crap that we're breathing in, does have a physical deprivation on us. Right. So, and we just don't realize this because we get up, we go to work, we come home, we empty the dishwasher, we fight with the kids and the dog, and we keep on doing this repeatedly, Monday to Friday, mow the lawn on the weekend, have the occasional barbecue. We just don't realize what we can't see because it's an invisible threat.
Of course. And then how does it manifest?
Let me just say, the skin is the biggest organ that we have as a human being, and we don't necessarily have to breathe it in. Things can also be absorbed through the skin as well. And especially in the environment that you're in, Stephanie, with those organics, volatile organic chemicals, the acetones, the formaldehydes, and all those sort of smells, they are absorbed through the skin as well as breathed in. And long-term effects, you could have, I was talking to a young lady that works in your industry, and she has eczema. Even though she wears a mask and gloves, she still has a skin irritation. Other people have respiratory difficulties. Now, there are studies that say that breathing in volatile organic chemicals and pollutants and what have you can be carcinogenic. And it all comes down to, we don't know what we don't know. But long-time exposure to anything or short-term exposure to a high concentration of ends up in the same result. And this is just through the research that I personally did because I wanted to protect myself, my friends and my family.
Wow. Can I ask you a question specifically about hormone disruption? In our industry, we look to improve someone's health and well-being, a series of holistic consultations and treatments. But we do often focus on, the influence of hormones on our skin and what that can, how that can influence the treatment plan and things like that. I feel like what you're talking about can actually have a detrimental effect and disrupt hormones.
Most assuredly, Stephanie, when we are breathing in things that we don't know the effect of over a long period of time, two things happen. Mood swings change. People's mood swings change. They're up, they're high, they're down, they're low. But from a business perspective, people don't come into work because they don't feel well. And as a business owner, obviously you need to service your customers, and you need to have your staff in a merry, joyful, physical well-being scenario, so that, you know, you're running a business. Now, if you're having a situation where your employees are falling sick, are in a, oh, I don't want to go to work attitude today because I really don't feel well, I don't know what's wrong with me, but, you know, I've got a bit of a runny nose. Well, that affects your business, and it affects your customers, because specifically in your industry, I know my wife goes to a specific hair salon and she has a specific lady that does her hair. That's it. You know, and if that lady's not there, my wife will make an appointment for another time. Like, I can't tell you specifically what a specific pollutant does for a hormonal exposure, but what I can say is I've witnessed mood swings. I've witnessed people have highs and lows, and, you know, from a business perspective, I'm not in today. Look, I'm sorry, boss. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm staying home.
My goodness. So we're talking skin problems, respiratory disorders.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's not me saying it, Stephanie. This is studies that have actually gone through, that are a lot smarter than I am, and have got professional people analysing it and coming up with these studies.
So the issue here is that in our industry, we use skincare products, we use chemicals, we use lasers. There's laser plume. The other day I had a carbon facial and I literally couldn't breathe. I had to fan myself while I was having, and we have extraction fans.
The extraction vents are important because ventilation is important, right? But there are many, many places out there where ventilation isn't possible just because of the design of the clinic that one might be in. But the removal of the contaminants is what's important. And the beautiful thing about the air purifiers that we have is, even though you might not smell the acetone, for instance, that's in the air, you could see on the unit that the colour is still orange and it hasn't progressed through to green and blue. So what you can't see can actually hurt you, right? Yeah. The aerosols are still there. So the importance is the removal. The ventilation helps, but it might change the concentration from one end of the room to the other. It's the answer is removal.
Understood. So can you tell us a little bit about, let's go back to what we were talking about with regards to pollutants and everything. Can you tell us a little bit about allergies now, allergies and asthma sufferers? Why and how do people end up suffering from these things? And I suppose, how can we alleviate that in a more productive way?
Yeah, the human system is a miracle in itself, and it follows certain processes. When those processes are inhibited, it coughs and splutters. I have family that have hay fever. After a few days of having the air purifier in the room, and the air purifier turns the volume of air in the room 3.5 times an hour, the family started to notice a difference.
Right.
I've had reports. There's another gentleman that is an asthmatic, and he wakes up early hours of the morning because he's a 5:30 start, and he's into his ventilator when he first kicks off. And he said to me, Nick, for the last 9 weeks, I haven't had to use my ventilator. He said, I don't know what was in my bedroom that was killing me, but wow. He said, I don't have to use my ventilator anymore. So whatever was triggering.
I don't know what was in my bedroom that was killing me.
Yeah. that was his words. And I thought, oh my goodness.
You know what, we're talking about clinics, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're talking about clinics, but this is for home too, right?
100%, yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's anywhere, in any indoor environment that you wish to remove pollutants or contaminants in the air that can affect your well-being and health.
Okay, tell us what you have. Tell us what you do. Tell us what this amazing air purifier does.
When I discovered this air purifier, I bought one and I had it with me for a month, and I noticed significant differences within my well-being and just the general environment at home. You know, my wife would be cooking, and, you know, she'd cook a lovely curry, and yes, you've got that curry waft through the kitchen and what have you. Well, let me tell you, within 20 or so minutes later, that waft disappeared. And I thought, oh, you know, you start to notice things like that. And in office situations, a similar sort of scenario. And as I said to you, we put it in a salon in this particular salon of this person that we knew. And within 24 hours, what you could smell before, you could not smell the next morning. That doesn't mean that it wasn't in the air, because the unit constantly works. It's just that you could not smell it. But the job was being done. The removal of this unit was being done. So I approached the company and I obtained an exclusive distributorship for the unit. And the unit is such that it implements 5 different stages of purification, whereas the norm, I should say the norm in quotation marks, the current units have 3. The common purifier uses three types of filters: a pre-filter, a HEPA filter, and an activated carbon filter. And let me explain what they are. Pre-filter is the first filter or first line of defense, where it stops the pet dander, the dust, the hair, etc. The HEPA filter, let me describe it like this. Imagine you're driving your motorcycle as fast as you could through a thickly dense forest. You're going to hit a tree. And that is what a HEPA filter is like. Anything that goes through the pre-filter hits the HEPA filter, and usually HEPA filters stop 97% of the stuff that goes through. But certain things get through, like volatile organic chemical smells, toxic vapors, etc., and a few viruses and bacteria. Now, the activated carbon filter is the third barrier, and that removes all those volatile smells, all those acetones and formaldehydes, etc.
The Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council is Australia's peak industry body, representing the collective professional beauty and aesthetic, salon, clinic and spa community. Created for the industry, by the industry, our council is a collaboration of industry leaders who bring their commitment and specialised skills to raise industry standards, guide regulation and be a strong voice to government. At ABIC, our purpose is to provide an accessible and supportive organisation for the betterment of the professional beauty and aesthetic field, to enhance working practices and promote unity across the various sectors of the industry. ABIC's mission also includes being a trusted source of referral, education and guidance for clients of the beauty and aesthetic profession. ABIC is here to support our members through an extensive offering, including hundreds of valuable resources, HR support and industry expert facilitators to ensure your continued growth and success. Join us today and together let's safeguard the future of the beauty and aesthetic industry. Find us at www.theabic.org.au. At ABIC, we are here for you.
Now, there are instances where after those three filters, bacteria and viruses still get through. In our process, we have the pre-filter, we've got the HEPA filter, we've got the activated carbon filter, but we also have a UV light. Any bacteria that gets through is completely annihilated by the UV. And viruses are non-living entities, so they can't be killed. So we have a fifth process in our purifier. As the air comes through and out, it strips an oxygen and hydrogen out of it, and the oxygen and hydrogen attaches itself to any contaminant, bacteria or virus in the room and completely makes it inactive and non-viable. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's COVID or a SARS-CoV equivalent, influenza or influenza A, it makes the virus completely inactive because it attaches an extra hydrogen and oxygen to it. So our units are both proactive and reactive. You're having a cleansing through the first three filters, the fourth being the UV, completely eradicates the bacteria. And the fifth one just pushes out ions into the room and in effect disinfects the room by attaching itself to the contaminants. And more importantly, with the viruses, it makes them non-viable and inactive.
Wow, that is incredible. My mind's blown, especially with the last two parts.
Well, I didn't believe it when I first got it, and when I bought it and I looked into it. What really amazed me, Stephanie, was that for every process of this machine, every filtration process, there is a genuine certificate to certify that it does what it says it does from a third-party independent entity out of Switzerland called SGS. And the other entity that has also certified it is a microbiology company in Guangdong, which is one of a very notable worldwide notable microbiology entity. So the fact that I now have proof that it does what it says it does and it's been certified by a third entity really gave me peace of mind. Because the first question we used to get was, how do we know the air purifier works? You know, the first thing I say to people is, look, put your hand over the air purifier. You can see the air is going through and coming out, but you don't know whether it's actually been purified. But we actually have a certificate to say, this is what it does. This is what it removes. It removes 99.99% of the contaminants in the room. It's the contaminants that give you the allergies, the hay fever, trigger asthma. And, you know, in my personal position, I had not been vaccinated for the obvious reason. So I'm super careful, man. I don't want to catch any SARS-CoV virus and what have you. So I'm so super conscious. It's not funny.
Well, everything you're saying is so fascinating. I can just imagine how many viruses, bacteria, but also mold spores would possibly come, into our house or exist in our house or in our actual environment that this filter could actually remove. Does it also do really fine particles like mold spores?
That's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because everybody says air purifiers take care of everything, right? But here's the truth. When bacteria comes through and it comes to the HEPA filter, yes, the HEPA filter stops it. But as the bacteria dies, it releases endotoxins, and then they go out.
Yes.
Whereas our purifiers take care of that, right? Through the UV light and the polarization at the end, which pulls off the oxygen and the hydrogen. Mold spores is a good one, because I know that we've been cleaning mold off everything, earlier on in the year with all the rain and what have you. Now, as the mold goes through the air purifier and as the mold spores go through the air purifier, the mold spores attach themselves to the HEPA filter. Yes, it does stop the mold spores, but what happens is as more contaminants hit the HEPA filter, the mold spores feed on these contaminants and then take off and go out again. Whereas the UV light just takes care of that. And then, as I said, we've got the proactive aspect of the polarization, where it pulls off the oxygen and hydrogen, attaches itself to anything that goes through us in the room. So it has a double effect.
But Nick, does the UV light actually, I suppose, kill mold spores, for lack of a better term?
It does destroy mold spores. Yes, it does. And if anything gets through, the only thing that'll get through after the UV light is viruses, because they're not a living organism. And as I said, we have a mechanism there in order to completely inactivate and make non-viable viruses.
Because I understand that mold spores actually, when you try to clean mold, mold spores release.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Do you call them endotoxins?
The endotoxins are what are released by bacteria.
What does mold release? The spores?
Just spores, yeah. Spores. And as I said, the HEPA filter stops them.
I think cleaning mold with bleach is a good idea. And apparently it's not, because it releases all the spores.
Correctamundo. Yep.
How would you clean it? This is deviating from our topic.
Just watching my wife and helping her do it. It's vinegar and water. That actually helps kill the spores as such, but you still need to wear a mask and wear gloves. And you still need to be safe, because the minute you touch something, something's going to get away from the surface.
Wow.
Right. So the whole idea is to remove it and completely inactivate it, get rid of it. I've seen some people clean mold not wearing masks or anything, just, a rag and attacking it with vinegar and water, which is not the way to go.
All these things are really having this deep impact on our health, and we don't know that that's occurring. We wake up in the morning tired, or we're feeling, not quite ourselves, foggy brain, all these different symptoms, not being able to lose weight, losing too much weight, and then you don't know, you can't pinpoint, what is it? I'm eating well, my diet's good, my lifestyle's great, I'm trying really hard, I feel generally okay, but there's still something off. And I feel like there's lots of pieces to the puzzle of why, and this is definitely a solid piece of the puzzle as to why.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephanie. You're so right. And as I said, what you don't know can actually hurt you. It's only through investigation that I found out this information, and I'm very passionate about sharing it with people. And yes, we have an air purifier that actually does what it says it does and can really help you. And we're starting to get feedback from people now saying exactly that, which really brings a smile to my face. It really does, because that was the whole purpose. That's why the company was set up, in order to get out there and, stop all this disruption that's going on and transmission of crap that's out there, and to really set a bar for a sense of well-being, whether it be business or residential, or at home. It's just that sense of well-being. And you made an important note. You don't know why you get up in the morning and you feel sluggish, or why did I have that restless sleep? Is it something I ate or something I breathed in? I don't know.
I hear you. And my mind is ticking over and over thinking, my goodness, this could be that little missing link that I need in my life too. And definitely my clinic, I own a couple of clinics, Nick. So this is fascinating to me, because I've put my, clinic owner hat on, and I'm thinking, What are the occupational health and safety requirements for businesses with regards to air quality?
Well, that's another very good question, because businesses do have a legal requirement to maintain a safe work environment for both their staff and their customers within their established premises. So it's not just functional procedures that they need to put in place. They need to make sure that the environment in which the business is in is conducted in a safe manner for human occupation. It's just straightforward. And your environment, Stephanie, obviously with those volatile organic chemicals, I know your staff is properly prepared with certain procedures, and they wear their gloves and their masks and what have you. It's not just the staff, it's the customer as well.
Yes.
It's a two-way street. And what we're saying to our clients as they're coming on board is, we'll provide you a certification sticker that you can put on your window, for instance, to say, hey, this business is allergy-free, contaminant-free, up to 99.99%. It gives the customers a sense of comfortability, and they know that they're walking into a place where they're not going to have ailments occur as such.
That is brilliant. That is actually brilliant. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Promoting the fact that you are conscious of your clients' well-being.
Yeah.
Not just do it, but actually tell people this is what we're doing for you. My clients are very appreciative of things like that. That's the over and above that you can.
Well, they're in close proximity, aren't they? When you're someone sitting there, and I must admit, being completely transparent, I love a great pedicure and foot massage. So we'll talk later. But you're in close proximity, right? You're within that 1.5 meters. So under strict rules that we were under, you're limiting the number of people that are coming into your shop. But if you have a certification sticker on the wall that says, hey, listen, we are contaminant-free, allergy-free, and we are because of this particular process, which is a legal requirement, by the way, you will have more customers. I honestly believe that, because that sense of comfortability and not having to fear of, I've just done my hair and I've just gone through this, and geez, doesn't it smell? And oh my goodness, I've got to get out of here.
Definitely retain more clients. Like, I know that if when I go to a salon or a clinic, and then I am treated with the full 360 experience, and I know that it's a safe environment. They give me all the bells and whistles, plus they do a good treatment. I am theirs for life. And
absolutely.
What the key to a successful business is yes, getting new clients, but getting the new clients you can do through marketing. Successful business is all about retention and getting them in more often. If any business owners are listening to this now, obviously we're talking about consciousness and being safe and protecting, but there's also an element of we need to run our businesses. The things that we need to implement our businesses need to help our clients and also help our staff. And I know my staff sometimes, you wonder, I've got a headache, I'm feeling funny, I don't know what's wrong, I need to go home early, and it's fine, you let them go home early. But then I do wonder to myself, is the environment causing it? Are the lights causing it? Is the air quality causing it? And then you get lost productivity even when they're there, if they're not at the peak game. And I'm assuming, and I can understand, that if you've got wonderful clean oxygen to breathe, that is really a precursor to, hey, I'm actually going to feel good. You go out into the mountains where there's no pollution, and I know I feel so much better when I am out in the country or somewhere where I know that the air, I can actually smell the cleaner air.
That's a really good analogy, Stephanie. When you have a thunderstorm and you walk out after the thunderstorm, everything smells nice and fresh.
Yes.
Well, the thunderstorm releases ions, oxygen and hydrogen in the air, which attack all the dust and what have you in the air. That's why you have that sense of freshness.
Right.
That's exactly what our ETS air purifiers do. The ionization process at the end, which strips off the oxygen and hydrogen and pushes it into the air, they attach themselves to the contaminants in the air and remove them.
That is beautiful.
It's as simple as that. And the damn thing works. And that's what excites me.
No, I love the analogy of, when you go out into, after a rainstorm, you smell that smell. Is that what I'm going to smell in my clinics and in my house when I'm putting the air purifier?
Well, I can vouch for it in my office space and at home. And eventually it'll happen everywhere else. Yeah, there's a sense of cleanliness.
Right.
We were away a few weekends ago and the house was locked up. So when you come in, no windows, no fresh air and what have you. The first thing I did was turn the air purifier on, unpack my suitcase and what have you, Came back an hour later. I hadn't opened any windows. Come back an hour later, and the air had changed.
Wow.
That staleness when the house was closed for a few days was not there in the air. Just as an example, right? And I've had other people that are using our air purifiers saying similar sort of scenarios. And it's always nice to hear from consumers as such and their experiences. And, you know, it gives me a bit of a warm feeling when I hear someone say, you know what, my son doesn't have those fits anymore. So whatever was in the air, your air purifier has removed it. So whatever trigger was in the air, my son hasn't had a fit for the last 3 weeks.
Goodness me.
I don't know what to say. I just get, wow, is all I can say, and happy to be a cog in the wheel and play a part in someone else's well-being. You were talking about the mountains and oxygen. I've read reports where when you over-oxygenate something, plants actually rejuvenate and love it. If you have a wound, you rejuvenate quicker, sooner, right? So if we have a cleaner environment, it only makes sense that your sense of well-being has to be positive.
Goodness me, that all these synapses and all these connections are happening in my brain right now. And I want to trial one of your systems.
More than happy to put one or whatever you want in some of your clinics to have a trial and have a look.
Goodness, I'll be your number one customer, I think. Tell us now, for people like myself who have, we actually have clinics. We, obviously we all have homes. Just tell us the nitty gritty, where do we put them really quickly? Where do we put them? Is it easy to change filters,
Yes, it's very easy to change filters. But the filters do have a duration and have been tested up to 8,000 hours, which is approximately 12 months with 24/7 use. The consumables are not expensive, like some of the printers that you buy for cheap and then pay through the nose for the consumables. Consumables are tens of dollars, not hundreds of dollars. What is important is to know what your space is. For instance, our AP90 does 90 square meters, but that also includes 8.5 feet of ceiling. Now, 90 square meters is equivalent to 16 meters by, 10 meters, just to give you a bit of an idea with an 8.5 ceiling. Now, in that space, these air purifiers turn that volume of air around 3.5 times. And that's not me saying it. That's a certificate of certification proving that it actually does that. The AP40 is for a smaller area. We've got consumers that are using that. Actually, we had one lady buy one a few weeks ago. She had a newborn and she bought that and she moves it around from the bedroom. They're on wheels and they're light. The AP40 is only 8.5 kilos. The AP90 is on wheels and it weighs 10 kilos. You can move them from room to room.
Wow, that's great.
They're very versatile.
Yeah. And so the 40 is a room size, would you say?
Yeah, AP40 is 5 meters by 8 meters. It's 40 square meters, including the. So just to give you a bit of perception, and that's why we decided to call it the 40, 5 by 8. Like people can perceive space, but not volume, and that just gives you an idea. And as I said, you could have it in the living room where the family is, and then take it up, put it in the bedroom if you want.
And how hard is it to set them up? Do they come all set up for us, or?
It's a plug and play. Put it into the PowerPoint. I would suggest when you first get it, turn it on turbo for about half an hour, and then just put it on auto and leave it. And just let it go. That's it.
I'm going to definitely take this discussion offline, Nick, because I'm extremely interested. But I thank you so much for the information that you've given us.
No, thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I apologise if I talk too much because I'm just so excited about it. I really am.
I think we both talk too much. We're talking over each other because I'm just genuinely excited about what you're saying. Because as I said, there's an element of the unknown there. I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew that, yes, of course, there's going to be toxins and chemicals, especially more aware in my clinic, but I didn't really understand to the extent of what can happen to you physically if you kind of neglect that area of your life.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for coming in, talking to us all about it. I would love to chat to you again and see how it's all going for you and going for everyone. I'd love to maybe get a couple of your customers on to share experiences about how, it's been life-changing for them. I think
more than happy to do that. Some
discussions around that would be fantastic.
And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for allowing me to rave on.
Thank you, Nick.
All the best. Ta.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Beauté by ABIC podcast. your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.